In 1964, the United States Navy lost a hydrogen bomb off the coast of Spain. They needed to find it. They called in a deep-sea research submersible called Alvin, a vessel so experimental its crew wasn't entirely sure it would come back up. It found the bomb at 2,850 feet. That same vessel, Alvin, is still operating today, rebuilt, upgraded, and actively used for scientific research. For 60 years, submarines were the exclusive domain of navies and research institutions. Nobody imagined civilians would one day own them, and then they did. Today, private submarines are a real, functioning, growing industry. A retired teacher in Florida owns one. So does a sovereign wealth fund in the Gulf. Same ocean, completely different realities. Before we get into the levels, I already know someone's going to ask about the Titan submersible. We'll get there. Someone else is going to say these things aren't real submarines, they're just underwater vehicles. There's a distinction, and it matters. We'll cover that too. Level 1, personal submersibles. The entry point. This is where private submarine ownership actually begins, and it looks nothing like what you're imagining. At the base of the market sit personal submersibles, two-person underwater vehicles designed for recreational diving. Manufacturers like Subfighter and Kayago produce underwater scooters and diver propulsion vehicles that start around $3,000 to $15,000. But the first real submersibles, vehicles with enclosed hulls, independent propulsion, and the ability to carry a passenger, begin around $30,000 to $80,000 from companies like Sublu and their Navbow series. The U-Boat Works Nemo sits at the cleaner end of this tier. A single-person acrylic sphere, electric propulsion, depth rating of around 100 meters, and a price of approximately $95,000. It looks like someone attached a transparent globe to a diving scooter, because that's essentially what it is. Who buys here? The marine biology professor who spent 30 years squinting through dive masks and decided the grant money could justify something better. The coastal resort in the Maldives that uses one for guest experiences and photographs it for Instagram. The recreational diver who maxed out everything recreational diving could offer and wanted the next thing, not knowing quite what the next thing was. The insight here is this. At level 1, you're not buying a submarine. You're buying the idea of a submarine. The depth rating is shallow, the range is limited, and you're wet before and after regardless. But the moment you slip below the surface in an enclosed vehicle, when the sound drops out and the light changes, something shifts. That feeling is what the entire industry is built on. And from here, the engineering gets serious. Level 2, recreational submarines. Private transport underwater. This is where the word submarine becomes accurate. You are enclosed. You are pressurized. You are genuinely independent of the surface. U-Boat Works makes the two-person Sea Researcher 2 and the more accessible Sport Sub series. Depth ratings reach 300 meters on higher spec models. The Triton 1002. Triton Submarines, being the Florida-based manufacturer that has become the dominant name in private submersibles, seats 2 passengers, reaches 1,000 feet of depth, and prices from around $1.5 million to $2.5 million depending on configuration. These are battery electric vessels. 3 to 5 hours of operational endurance. Transparent acrylic pressure hulls that give 320-degree visibility. Pilot and passenger layouts, where the view forward is nothing but open ocean. They are typically operated from a surface vessel, a chase boat or a larger yacht, which limits their range but also provides a support infrastructure that makes them viable for non-professional operation. Who's here? The super yacht owner who got tired of looking at the ocean from the deck and wanted to look at it from inside it. The marine naturalist who built a foundation around conservation and uses the submersible as both a research tool and a fundraising centerpiece. The owner who invites a documentarian aboard, gets featured on a streaming series, and considers the submersible marketing for his other businesses. Triton has delivered vehicles to private clients across the Maldives, Palau, and the Caribbean. The vessels are sold as yacht tenders in the same commercial sense as jet skis and chase boats, except this tender can sit at 1,000 feet watching a hammerhead shark turn slow circles in the dark. The reframe is this. At level 2, the submarine is already a serious piece of engineering. The people who dismiss it as a toy have never looked up through an acrylic dome at the bottom of a coral reef from 400 feet below the surface. And from here, the depth ratings and the budgets begin climbing in ways that stop feeling recreational. Level 3, expedition-class submersibles. Scientific depth, private money. This is where recreational capability ends and genuine exploration begins. Tritons. 303 reaches 3,300 feet, over half a mile, in a 3-person configuration. The Triton 7500 Tar 3 goes to 7,500 feet. These are vessels capable of reaching the majority of the world's continental shelves, encountering species that have never been filmed, and operating in environments where no human has ever physically been. Price. Range. $3 million to $8 million depending on depth rating and payload configuration. Operating costs run substantial. You need a support vessel large enough to handle a 10 to 20 ton submersible, trained pilots, maintenance contracts, and surface support teams. Dive duration at depth can reach 8 hours. Navigation systems are fully autonomous. They carry scientific sampling arms, sediment collectors, high-resolution camera arrays, X-rays, and sonar mapping capability. Who occupies this level? The technology billionaire who funded the submersible the way other people fund a sailing team, as an extension of competitive identity, except the competition is with the ocean itself. The private ocean research institution that operates on donor funding and uses expedition footage for conservation campaigns. The luxury charter operator running scientific expedition charters at $30,000 to $80,000 per week for guests who have done every safari, every polar voyage, and every luxury Antarctic cruise and are looking for the next frontier. Here is the insight that people outside this world consistently miss. Expedition-class submersibles are not expensive hobbies. Several privately funded vessels have made legitimate scientific discoveries, new species, new geological formations that national research programs didn't have the budget or the access to find. Private capital went where institutional funding couldn't reach. The ocean didn't care who paid for the submersible. And from here, the missions stop being about recreation entirely. Level 4, full ocean depth, capable. The 36,000-foot tier. This is where the conversation changes. Not deeper in degree, deeper in kind. Full ocean depth capability means reaching anywhere on the planet's seafloor. The deepest point, Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, sits at approximately 36,089 feet. Very few vehicles in human history have reached it. Triton's 36,002, designed as the first commercially available full ocean depth submersible, was built to this specification. The hull is a pressure sphere machined from titanium to tolerances, measured in thousandths of an inch. At full ocean depth, the external pressure is 16,000 pounds per square inch. The engineering required to keep 2 people alive inside that sphere is extraordinary by any standard. Price, approximately $48 million for a certified full ocean depth capable vehicle. One of these was used in the Five Deeps expedition, funded by private equity executive Victor Vescovo, which completed the first crewed descent to the deepest point in all 5 of the world's oceans. That expedition was privately funded, privately operated, and made more full ocean depth dives than all previous human expeditions combined. Who operates at this level? It is a very short list. Vescovo is on it. A small number of sovereign-affiliated research programs. 1 or 2 private foundations whose names are not widely known because the people funding them prefer it that way. At level 3, private money met scientific ambition. At level 4, private money exceeded what most governments have been willing to fund. The reframe is uncomfortable. The most complete map of the human-explored deep ocean is increasingly the product of private checkbooks, not national programs. And from here, the submersibles stop being vessels and start being statements. Level 5, yacht-integrated private submarines. The floating infrastructure. Tier here is where private submarine ownership intersects with another world entirely, the superyacht industry. A small number of superyachts, typically 80 meters and above, are designed from the keel up to carry and deploy a private submarine as a permanently integrated system, not as an accessory, as a core feature. The 88-meter superyacht Alucia operates 2 submarines, a Triton 1002 and a larger research submersible, and has been used for National Geographic expeditions, private charters, and owner use simultaneously. The vessel is purpose-built around its submarine capability. The submarine bay is engineered into the hull. The support systems, power, maintenance, crane capacity are spec'd around the vehicles they carry. Custom yacht-integrated submarine systems from builders like Lursen, Oceanco, and Feedship add $10 million to $30 million to a hull that already costs $100 million to $300 million before the submarine is considered. Who commissions this? The owner whose yacht already has a helipad, a swimming pool, a full spa, and a cinema, and who asked his naval architect what was left. The family whose philanthropic foundation uses the vessel for ocean research, while the family uses it for extended cruises where the submarine is deployed for morning dives before breakfast. The individual for whom the submarine is not a feature. It is the reason the yacht exists. The insight is this. At level 5, the submarine is never the most expensive thing in the transaction. It is just the most interesting one. And from here, the customization reaches a level where price becomes genuinely secondary to specification. Level 6, military specification. Private submarines, defense grade, privately funded. This level exists in a gray zone that most people don't know about. Several private entities, security firms, sovereign wealth structures, and ultra-high net worth individuals operating in politically sensitive regions have commissioned or operated vessels built to military-adjacent specifications. These are not warships, but they are not recreational vehicles either. Privately operated narco-submarines, crewed vessels built in Colombian jungle shipyards and capable of crossing the Atlantic semi-submerged, represent one end of this. They are cheap, expendable, and effective. Coast Guard seizures have found vessels carrying multi-ton cocaine shipments. Engineering cost, estimated $1 million to $2 million per hull. They are a dark, parallel evolution of the private submarine. Industry as proof that the engineering is not as complex as the legitimate market suggests. At the other end sit privately commissioned research vessels built to modify certified defense contractor standards, submarines capable of maintaining stealth signatures, carrying surveillance equipment, or operating in contested maritime zones. These are not for sale in the traditional sense. They are commissioned through relationships. Pricing is not public. Capabilities are not disclosed. The insight here is the most uncomfortable in this entire industry. The ocean has no fence. At 36,000 feet of depth or 3 miles offshore in international waters, sovereignty becomes a theoretical concept. Private submarine capability, at sufficient specification, operates in a space where national maritime law has limited reach and even more limited enforcement. This is the level where the technology stops being about exploration and starts being about something else entirely. And from here, the final level isn't about capability at all. Level 7, state submarine programs, billionaire commissioned one-offs, and the Titan moment. This is not private aviation. This is geopolitical infrastructure and cautionary history combined. On the commissioned one-off side, a small number of ultra-high net worth individuals have explored or funded submarine projects at a scale that blurs into state-level engineering. Proposals have circulated in the superyacht design world for fully independent private submarines, not submersibles carried by a yacht, but submarines capable of extended independent operation, habitation, and global navigation. Concept designs from studios like Migaloo Private Submersible Yachts have shown vessels 115 meters in length capable of both surface and submarine navigation, with price tags estimated above $2 billion. None have been confirmed as built, but the demand inquiries are real. And then there is the moment the industry cannot escape. In June 2023, OceanGate's Titan Submersible, a carbon fiber and titanium vessel carrying 5 people to visit the Titanic wreck at 3,800 meters, imploded during descent. All 5 aboard were killed instantly. The vessel had been flagged by industry experts for years over its non-standard hull material and its lack of certification from any recognized classification society. OceanGate's founder had publicly dismissed the regulatory framework as innovation limiting. The implosion did not kill the private submarine industry, but it drew a line between the operators who take certification seriously, Triton, U-Boat, Works, and their established peers, and those who treat maritime safety standards as optional. That line is now permanent. At the state level, modern nuclear attack submarines represent the true ceiling of the form. A Virginia-class submarine costs approximately $3.4 billion per hull. It operates for 30 years, carries a crew of 135, and can remain submerged for months, limited only by food supply. It is the most capable vessel human engineering has ever placed underwater. No private entity owns one, but the gap between a $95,000 Nemo sphere and a $3.4 billion nuclear attack boat is exactly the same kind of gap as the one between an empty leg flight and Air Force One. The ocean keeps the same percentage of its secrets regardless of how much you spent to go look. Private submarine ownership started as a fantasy. It is now a functioning market with real manufacturers, real delivery schedules, and real waiting lists for vessels that will take you to places no tourist infrastructure has ever reached. The person buying a Sublu underwater scooter and the sovereign wealth fund commissioning a yacht-integrated Triton are both doing the same thing. They are buying access to the part of the planet that remains genuinely unexplored. One gets 30 meters, the other gets 36,000 feet. 60% of the Earth's surface is deep ocean. Less than 20% of it has been mapped to the resolution we use for the moon. The submarines go where the maps run out. The jet was never the point. Neither is the submarine. What you do in the dark, at depth, in a place no one has been. That's the point. Same ocean, same physics, completely different realities. If this was useful, subscribe. I break down how these industries actually work. The engineering, the economics, the people inside them. Not how the brochure describes them. See you in the next one.